Hey everybody, it's Brooke and Ouista. We know we normally put out our episodes on Wednesdays, but today, October 10th, is World Mental Health Day, and so we wanted to make an exception with this episode and put it out special.
We also wanted to give you a heads up that this episode is a little different than what you're used to hearing from us, but we think that the conversation is so important. This conversation will touch on heavier topics like self-harm, addiction, drug overdose, depression, abuse, and other sensitive subjects that may not be suitable for younger audiences.
If you or someone you know is struggling, please know that we at the NLC love you and encourage you to reach out to mental health support services in your area. The Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by dialing 988. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hoporenkv Native American Podcast, where we discuss focused topics within tribal housing and self-determination. I'm Brooke Warrington, the Training and Development Specialist here at the Native Learning Center, and with me is my co-host, Ouista Atkins, our Training and Development Coordinator. Today, we're going to be talking with Priest Martinez, the Empowerment and Supportive Services Manager with Northern Circle Indian Housing Authority. Let's go ahead and get started. So, Priest, of course, we want to ask you, is there a story behind your first name?
Oh my God, yes. I didn't get to get the reason why until my mom has passed away, and she said, "I'm sorry that I had to tell you this, but I did not like your dad." And so what I did is I found a movie when you were in the hospital. It was called Superfly, and the worst character on the movie was a drug dealer named Priest. And so my mom said that she wanted to name me after the drug dealer because she had no hopes for my father and me. And that's how I got the name Priest. And then the funny story is the person I was sitting next to her was my godmother. She goes, "You could have the middle name." So my Aunt Loretta said, "Well, I'm gonna name him after my favorite band singer, which is the name was Rahilio." So I've never understood where I got my name from. I had grew up a long, tough childhood based off that name. I've been called everything from church, preacher, everything. And so it's been a tough, but I'll tell you what, it's very eccentric and unique now that I'm older and kind of like nobody has it. So I love the name now.
I like that you did a positive spin to your name. But before we get into your background story, can you go ahead and tell us about your life and what is your current role at Northern Circle Indian Housing Authority?
Yeah, my current role as of today is I manage the empowerment and supportive services for 8 tribes in our consortium. And what we do is I try to bring in the financials. I try to bring in the first-time home buyers. I try to get them, if they're having problems in their home, relationships for our residents, I get them their relationships training. I get them their motherhood and fatherhood training. I get them their if there's abuse in the home, I get them addressing family violence in classes. If there's if there's addiction in the home, I try to get them in treatment. If the children are going through suicide and isolation, I try to support that. And if there's overdose, I'm usually the person they call to come because they don't have trust in today's law enforcement. So they'll call me to come in there. And so I'm a big advocate for the people, and let alone our 8 tribes that we work for. You know, in the community, we have Lake Mendel and Sonoma County, which we call ourselves the Tri-County. And I try to do my best to work in there. And if it wasn't for Northern Circle, I wouldn't have the platform I have now and, where I'm at today. And so also, I also sit on the LEAP for California, for the California ICH board, and for Benioff, which is UCSF's board. So I work closely with the homelessness and try to get our data collected so we can help Native communities and get these Senate bills and these Assembly bills passed because they're important to us, to get some standards and stability for our Natives in our housing, let alone everything else that we got to go through. They say that it's trauma. I say it's healing now. What we learned from the past, we're going to grow in our future. And we're at the end of this seventh generation. And now we just got to teach the next seventh generation of, how to sustain, how to be more stronger than we were. Like I had a story, but, we'll get into that later. But my job now is to make sure that every person that comes to that door feels comfortable, whether they're late for an appointment, whether they're early for an appointment, they're still here for a reason. And I try to find that, and I try to break that barriers and walls down, because usually people knock at the door when it's last minute and when there's all hope lost. And that's where I come in with the hope, because I had the same story. I had the homelessness, I had the abuse, I had the suicide, I had addressing family violence in my own home. I had everything. And I lost a lot of people in my life, but I know I'm here for a reason. And, if we get back to our cultural roots and bring that into our work environment, things are a lot easier for the families we work for. So with that being said, my job description here in Northern Circle is all around. If it ain't something ain't hard, then, I don't think that it's meant to be. I know that I have to give back, and in order to give back, that this is my daily life.
That's so incredible. And that has to be such fulfilling work as well. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I know that you are also a business owner and a co-founder. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about Mending Indigenous Spirits and what the services are that y'all offer?
And the Mending Indigenous Spirits is the humbling part of what we can do, because we're restricted from guidelines and grant, how we expenditure on grants, like can't buy food, can't buy gas cards, can't buy, the things that some of our tribal membership needs, let alone our community needs, that government funds give us restrictions of what we can spend on. If you provide a nonprofit service and you go get the individuals that want to provide those things, that's why we started Mending Indigenous Spirits, because I went to this one healing conference, and it was like a first of all. It was like the big ones, like Native Dad Networks. There was Fatherhood and Motherhood. There was Wellbrighty, and then there was the Native Wellness Institute. And what they did is they came together and made one wellness conference. And going there, we took our staff, we took everybody we could, and it was affordable and it was beautiful. But talking to the people that started it, they said we only have room for 600 people. And from what I seen, there was over 40,000 people that wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, man, we still need to serve the rest of those individuals. And how do we do that when we only have room for so many people? So that's where I was like, we're sitting there on this little app, and they're like, everybody's engaged in it. They're like, oh, I want to earn these warrior points. I want to earn this, this stability. I want to earn friendship. I want to do this. And I was like, okay, social media and the websites and the phone apps are where everybody's mindset is. So I was like, okay. So I got together with my partner and my friends, and I was like, we need to start a nonprofit. And what my vision is, that we have an app where everybody can go and get the service they need, because sometimes buildings are closed after 5 o'clock. There's no service. I want to provide that 24-hour service for people, where they're like, hey, I'm in the town of Los Angeles. I don't know where to go get a meeting at. I don't know where to go. I want that app to go locate them, tell them where the meeting is, tell them where tribal health, where their local tribe is, the nearest meeting for Red Road, NA, whatever the resources they need. On top of that, people want to get into addressing their own family violence, addressing their own wellness, addressing all these little certifications, but you can only do 30 people at a time. I want to be able to have the people that facilitate it to be able to go online and say, hey, I offer this. And we'll have like 100 facilitators on there. And the people that want to sign up, they can be able to sign up, and they'll be able to do it on their own pace and to get their wellness, because everybody works 9 to 5, and it's hard to do your own wellness on top of doing your job, taking care of your kids on top of your job, going to sports with your kids on top of, so trying to create that platform where you just provide a half an hour of your own self-care on an app and whatever we need to do to research. And then on top of that, I was like, man, all these beautiful crafts these native have everywhere you go, powwows, big times, conferences, they don't have a platform to sell on. They have these little things, and I know it gets repetitive for them, but they need a bigger audience. And so I want to bring that bigger audience to them and say, look, just go with your camera and show everybody what you have, and take orders, like not just for here. Like, I went to Oklahoma, I went to a conference over there, and I was wearing my abalone necklace, and everybody there's like, I want that. We don't have what they have. I want to go from east to west coast and have an opportunity for everybody to have that um same wellness and same wants as like I have when I go over there. And then when they come from the East Coast, they come over here and like they want everything too. I want to offer that to them. And then last but not least, I want to have that one platform where everybody shares what their events are. And just have that. If you look at our website, we keep going with, we're just really based in California yet, but eventually evolve it to where all United States, all Turtle Island, let alone if we branch out to the Southern America, and because there is no borders considered in our history. It's all the way to the top of Canada, all the way to the bottom of South America, to be able to have that platform where we have wellness, indigenous trainings, get people to have interaction with each other. Because believe it or not, I went over to the East Coast and I heard a song that was super similar to one that we have over here. But over here, we're like, no, this is our only way to sing a song. No, like we got to teach people, like creator gives different gifts to everybody and has different interpretations. Like when I seen that, my eyes were open. I was like, man, there's so much opportunity across all this Turtle Island. And I want to bring it together where, you know, I know that we pay for apps. I understand that, but and I got to pay for my platform, so that's why I went with the nonprofit. I didn't do the LLC or business because I wanted to make sure that we take their community and the people that want to work for this, that type of work, make it easier for them to take care of their kids, take care of their families. So, like I said, I could talk all day about some stuff, but that's my passion. My passion is creating that app. Right now, we have classes, we do things on our app, and we provide some services and links to everywhere you need to go. But in the end, I want to be able to teach on there. I want my life to be, more than just California. It's got to be the whole Turtle Island.
I don't even know where to start. First off, I just want to like applaud you for not only finding a way to keep up with current times, because the internet has changed the game immensely, and for you to find a creative way to incorporate keeping up with the times and keeping up with the younger generation and finding a way to incorporate, the older generation in with it, and yet still keep tradition alive as well and find a way to put tradition in that is just like I'm kind of speechless. I'm blown away. I hope our listeners, are inspired by that and find a way to kind of like what you said, your powwows are so important. All these conventions are so important, but not everybody can go. And you found a way to not only, hey, if you can't make it, don't worry, we're there for you. We'll broadcast it for you. We'll show you what it's about so you're not missing out. And then putting on top of it, like if you have school or if you're at work or if you have children, you made it easy and accessible for everyone and anyone. And you kept the human in it as well. So seriously, like I just want to applaud you on keeping the humanity and the tradition alive. Like that's not an easy task to do. So way to go. Like keep it up. We're here to promote you. If you
Yeah.
have anything, like we'll post the pictures on our Instagram as well. Like social media really has changed the game. So we're here to help as well. And with that being said, I think it's time to kind of just like go into your background story because I know our listeners are probably dying to hear, and I am as well. So earlier you were talking about how the community really comes to you first versus like necessarily calling the police for help because you built that trust with them. Did you feel like you could build that trust because of your background? How were you able to establish that the welcomeness where they could come to you first versus the police?
Let's just start with my story. Um, I know what how it feels to not be wanted. I know how it feels to be abused. I know how it feels to go through suicide. I know how it feels to be hungry. I know how it feels to have needs. And that's my strength, though. I'm not going to get into what I went through in my life, but just know that I went through a lot. And I also did give up on Creator at one time. And that was because I lost my grandmother, the most important person to me in my life at one time. But it was also one of the strongest points where I built myself and I had my mother, and she's like really super hard on me. But at the same time, she built me to the strongest person I could be that think outside the box, and I lived that life of crime. I lived that life of, let's say, a juvenile and just a bad person at one time, but that's also my teaching moment. And at one time, I had 24 life without because of things of, I was always protective of everybody. Like if you were my friend, I would protect you, let nothing happen to you. But that's where it got me into where I had to do a bunch of time. But it took my family to say, we're tired of you doing that. Look at it now, like you're not going to come home one day. And if you don't act right, and keep praying, like we're gonna go ahead and put you to the side. And I was like, wow, you know, I had a letter put underneath my door, and it was my Uncle Martin. And it said, what would your grandmother think of you? And that was it for me. That was it. I turned my life around in prison, end up getting a business degree, end up getting automotive. Like I'm a super certified auto mechanic. I just went gung ho, just like grew up. I grew up and I just realized, like, if I'm so good at being bad, let me see what happens if I'm good at being good. And once I did that, like the world opened up to me. I started working on myself, and just by the grace of Creator, like there was a letter that went in the door, says, hey, they're going to modify your sentence based off your co-defendant. And I was like, no way. So we go back to court, and the judge says, you know what, I think that Mr. Martinez, that um we're going to allow you to have only 12 years, and you're going to have a date one day. And ever since then, all I did was just go harder than I could ever in my life. Clean and sober, don't do anything, supportive of my friends, was super positive, know what the healthy risk is, try to change the way that I live my life. And when I got to come home, um, of course, you got to deal with everything you did outside in the past, but it took me about a good 6 months to a year for my family to like recognize and support, and they did, and they didn't give up on me. I had a lot of tribal leaders, like before I went in, they're like, Priest, like you're not meant to be that way, like change your life. And they were there at the day that I got home, and they're like, man, we've been praying so hard for you to change, like you have a purpose in life. And I was like, well, I didn't know it at that time, because I thought that the person that meant the most to me, which was my grandmother, like there's nothing left after that. All I have is, like, I kept losing. Like I lost my dad, I lost my mom, I lost everybody. But it gave me the strength today to be the person I am, because I went through everything. And what I did is I went to this rehab, and the lady that was there so hard on me, but she says, I'm only hard on you because I want your character to come out, because you're true, you're real, and you never changed your ways. And I see you help everybody, but you need to help yourself. And I was like, man. And so I started selling my character, because I didn't have $1 in my pocket. All I had to do was sell my character. I didn't have a job. I didn't know what buying a home is. I was just scared of school, like, going to college. And then she got me to go to college. I ended up having a AOD certificate. I had a job description. She gave me a job, let me rent one of her little apartments, and then my family went all in. And then I got to meet North Circle. There was a lady here by the name of Dana, and all these people, and Christine. They're like, man, why don't you try doing first home buyers program? And I was like, credit. I don't know what credit is. You know what I mean? Like, and they started building it, getting a secure credit card, taking care of it, making sure I save money, making sure that I know how to pay my bills on time, doing it within 1 year. I had a credit score of 640, and they said, let's do this. And with that being said, the grace of Creator, like I got to purchase my first home, and that was one of the greatest blessings I ever had, to be able to open and shut my door, have keys. I've never owned a home. I remember all my childhood, I probably had one bed in my life and have my own bed, washer and dryer. And it was just nothing but smooth sailing up from there. Bought another home, and just, had mistakes too. Like, I'm not exempt from mistakes because I'm doing all right. Like, I still have a family life. I still have my own personal needs that I try to have, and I try to marry, and I try to do things. Like, I wanted the white picket fence and jumped into things, but now I take things slower, and I try to create happiness for myself, because if I create it for myself, then everybody around me is going to have that same feeling. So with that, my life got into where I am today. So I know my audience. I know what people go through, and people from my past that knew me, who I was, reach out to me now. So when you ask me, how do they reach out to you? It's because I went through the same thing they did. And they said, man, if you can do it, I can do it. And so when I'll just say this, there was a time when COVID first happened, and I was on the council where there was a lot of tribal leaders, and with this one man, no, there was two men, Gabe Ray and Martin Martinez, my uncle, called everybody together, put that Zoom, used that Zoom for the first time, and he's like, we need all the tribal leaders to get together, and he's like, what are you doing for your community? And we're all like, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this. And he's like, but we have kids dying. What are you doing? And that was an awakening for me. Tribal leadership is more than just doing politics. It's about what you do in the community. So sorry about that, but it still resonates with me because I love my people, you know. And so he's like, what are you doing for the elders? What are you doing for the people that get out of prison? And nobody could answer it. Not one of us could answer that. And then we said, well, we're going to do something now. And so we started the youth groups. We started the elder group. We started the bringing warriors down group. And I met probably 6 to 10 beautiful people that wanted it just like me out of all those people. And we did something for the kids. We took the kids on, and we did a survey for the kids. And the 5 most important things that the kids wanted was, the first thing was time. I know it's hard. And the second thing is they wanted culture. They wanted to learn the language. They wanted to learn to count. And the last thing is they wanted to play sports with us. They wanted to learn sports because we think we're the greatest sportsmen out there, right? We're out there playing baseball, basketball, football, and we're doing great. But they wanted that too for themselves. And so they wanted to learn from us because we sit here and tell the stories. And so what we did is we did that almost every month as we could. We created the youth big times, where we gave the kids the clipboard and said, you tell us what you want us to do and we'll do it for you. And so we started that for a couple of years, and through COVID, and because there was no events for kids, there was no events for elders, there was no support for rehabilitation for the gentlemen and women that are in the iron houses. So we did the best we could to get that going for our community. And to this day, it is successful. But after COVID, our job descriptions became back to the old ways. Our communities came back to the old ways. So it's finding the balance nowadays. But the reason why that I have such trust in the communities, because like I said, I lived what they went through, and everybody knows me. and they know that if you be genuine and you be real, then they can break down the walls a whole lot easier. And so when those 6 kids went through that overdose with the pills, they had there was this one person came with a bucket of pills, and we had one die out of the 5 and the rest are in the hospital. Like, we had to do something. And I have to give credit to my cousin Flaming McLeod, because he went just as hard as me, if not harder. And people trust him too. And we did this video, because if you look at the Narcan training videos, it's really bland, plain. Here you administer. They don't tell you what you go through when you administer, and all the people around you are hysterical, traumatized. It's a lot, and the person that's administering it has to go home with if it's successful or a failure for the individual that overdose. So I was like, we have to do something. He's like, let's do it. And then we got a team together and we made this video. It went so viral, it was crazy. And that's where I got my little fame from, because I made a realistic video on how to use Narcan and how to call people, contact, got rid of the stigma, and just said, like a good citizen law. Like, I went all into this video, and then Crib reached out to me, the health care. They're like, Priest, you're doing something right. Let me help you fund this. And so we're going to remake the video this year. We're going to remake the one for the kids, because we did one for kids, because kids don't know what it is to touch that little baggie on the ground with pills. That could harm them too. There's a lot of kids that go through this. And so this is what we're doing this year. We have the T-Lock grant, and we're very, very grateful for Caroline, Caroline at Crib over here, because she believes in us and she helps us, and she's, we gotta take away that stigma. Harm reduction is real, and if we could do anything for our community, we're gonna do it. That's just on that side. And then suicide, I have to give super props to Chris. He is a mentor of mine, and he said, Priest, a lot of kids really look up to you. He goes, utilize me. And he's an ex-counselor, for what do you call it, QPR. And so and it's only because I had my own child in my home and I didn't know, and I'm doing all this work, and the cops are yelling at the door, and I was like, what's going on? And didn't even know it in my own house. I had a stepchild try to commit suicide, and I didn't even know it. So that's where I put myself out there more. I started teaching people, like, look, man, we got to be on our kids' social medias. Don't dictate what they do, just be there, because there's going to be that point where that's where they utilize that. And I didn't realize how many kids are on there, just mentioning it. And I try to reach out to them. I try to reach out to parents, and I was like, look, don't don't take that away from them, because that's our only tool we have to reach out to kids when it's happening or we see it happening. And now we teach kids, and there's a new training that's it's suicide prevention that Motherhood and Fatherhood has. Oh my God, I've never had it where it's been critiqued to Indigenous or culturally based. And it tells us, like, you have a spirit in you also that we're hurting. And so you teach people that, they kind of think secondly about that, because, to us, to majority of us, it's just our body, how we treat our body. We forget about that second part that we're born with, our spirituality. Like, our spiritual part of ourselves also had spiritual parents that critique them. And that's why we have that thought process of, like, the wrong and the rights, where we have our instinct, our intuitions. And so I was like, man, this is the best suicide training I've ever been to. And we're going to start that this year in the winter, and just keep looping it until people start understanding and want it, because there's not a suicide for natives. They don't teach it, they don't have it, but this is probably the best one I've ever been in my life, let alone everything else that I do. Like, I promote everything that I can. And I could look at my emails right now, and it's 732. And that's because the people's need are definitely out there, but this is probably the most burned out job description for a community is, the helper, the community service. Um, but I don't want to do that. I went through this training like a couple weeks ago, and you need to train people to be like you, because we sit there and say, man, I wish I had 10 of me, but we could train people to be like us. And she was at that one. And I'm very grateful for these little things, and there's a training, and you try it out in the community, like really take one person and let them build a sandwich. You turn around a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you turn around and you try to tell somebody how to make it. You will see how detailed you need to be in every description you have for somebody. And that's what we tend to forget. Like, it's fast paced. We got to slow down sometimes, and think things out methodically sometimes. So I know I answered your question, but I get into talking. That's one thing that's great about me, as I shoot it from the hip, and I know my audience, and I know that if I don't say it, I'm just going to hurt from holding on to it, because my spirit helpers tell me, say it. And then when I'm in a roundhouse or I'm in culture, like, the elders will tug on my coat, like, come here. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? They're like, keep doing what you're doing, but add this. So I have messages from all over, and I say it, I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to tell you this. My elder said to tell you guys this, like, and I'll say one that will just drop dead me hard is that I held an elder come up to me and said, why are we always on the front line? We're always fed first at events or culture or traditional ways. Feed the elders. What happens if that food was poisoning? Why do we always got to go first? Because when COVID happened, the elders were served first with that vaccinations. Why do we have to go first? What if it hurt us first? What happened to you guys stepping in front of us and taking care of us? You go first. And that just kind of flipped the script with me. And I was like, man, she is right. We sit here and say we take care of our elders. We do these things, but they're always the front line person. They're always going first. They're always showing us how to do it. When are we going to step up and just put them in the back and let us do what we're supposed to do? We call ourselves warriors, right? We should be doing the ones that are putting ourselves on the front lines. If you look at things and protesters, they're always on the front line. They never, ever, ever question when somebody needs them. They just do it. And so that was super important for me. And I just had to put that out there because she tells me to put it out there. So
No, that definitely is. That's like, talk about a perspective shift, because you go all this time thinking about it in a way that when we put elders first, we're more trying to serve them, take care of them. But to think about it in terms of, front lines like that, it really is like that's an intense perspective shift. And I really there's so much obviously that you just said that I want to commend you for, but something that really sticks out to me earlier, you brought up this idea of when you were in rehab, the person who was helping you, she wanted your character to come out. For me, this whole time that you've been talking, I've just been thinking about how there are two kinds of people in this world. There's people who experience loss, they experience pain, they experience harm, and it hardens them. And there's like this darkness that gets trapped in there. And then that becomes all they know how to kind of put back out into the world. And then there's people like you where they experience that pain and they experience that hurt and that loss. And rather than thinking, well, I had it happen to me, you guys can get through it too. Instead, you want to protect anyone and everyone, but especially your community, from having to experience that pain and that loss and that harm that you have. And I just want to really commend you because, to me, that's the best kind of person, the best kind of people who hurt and then want to make sure that there's less hurt for everybody else, that there's less pain, that they can, take that darkness that they experienced and turn it to light. And, not everybody's like that. So I'm sure many people have told you before how amazing you are, but that's a really special thing. And people like you are how we heal, the people who take it the other way, unfortunately hurt people, and that happens too. But the people like you who can turn it to light, and not only turn it to light for yourself, but turn it to a light that can shine out to everybody else, is really, really special. And I'm so grateful that you came on here and shared all of this with us, because sometimes you're going through stuff and it's so hard to see the other side. I went through a lot of suicide ideation when I was a teenager. I did try at one point, and thankfully was able to pull it back and get myself back on track. But I know some of that pain, and so for you later on to just make it so that other people have a safe harbor when they're in that place, I can't extend enough gratitude to you for what that means to people, for just knowing that someone's out there doing that for others. Like, you're amazing. And it's just character. Oh my God. Like, it's beautiful, and thank you. Thank you for being out here, existing, doing these things for your community, because it would be easier almost for you to have hardened completely and just, sank like a rock.
Yeah.
And the fact that you broke it open, you shone that light out, I just, bravo. Seriously.
Being vulnerable is very hard. And
Yeah.
I wish I could teach that to the next person, because that's the only way we'll get help, is if you just take a healthy risk and just ask for help one time. It gets easier after you practice it.
I agree.
Man, you got me so emotional. I feel like kind of what Brooke said, we can all kind of resonate to what you said in a personal level. So thank you for sharing your story. Like you said, it's not easy being vulnerable. And I think the reason why I got so emotional was, I feel like before you even said, my spirit guides are with me, I didn't want to sound weird, but I just felt this like energy with you. And I could just tell like you weren't alone. And it was almost as if like your spirit guides were giving you strength.
Yeah.
And I just want our listeners to know, like, you are not alone as well. Like, your spirit guides are there for you. It took me a while to reconnect with my spirit guides, like my angels. I also went through like a weird time with my religion, and that was like probably the darkest spot for me, because I had lost my light. And to reconnect with my angels and my spirit guides was really emotional for me. So to be able to sit here and like be able to see the strength that you got from your spirit guides only inspires me to get closer with mine. And I just want our listeners to know you're not alone. The Native Learning Center loves you. We're here for you. Priest loves you. He's here for you. Like, there's just, what you're doing is amazing. You're creating a community, and you're helping not only build your community, but you're healing your community. And I feel like a lot of people are not discussing that enough. And that's what makes it so emotional, because you're going direct to the children, and you're going direct to the elders, and really putting them first. And so I just want to applaud you on that, and thank you for all that you do for Indian country. Like, we see it, we recognize it, and please don't stop if you need help with anything. Like, we're here for you.
Thank you.
Just, I feel like there's not even anything else that we could say. Just so taken away by everything you said. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story, honestly. I don't know if there's like a message you want to let our listeners know before we end today's podcast.
Well, there's plenty of messages, and there's plenty of things, but in all, it's never between you and other people. It's never between you and others' opinions. Mother Teresa had the best poem I've ever heard, quote, and it's between you and Creator in the end. So don't give up on Creator. Like, you got to build your foundation from Mother Earth up, and you're a part of it. And we could always blame other people, but in the end, we gotta stop and just really utilize that word love and keep saying it until it's in you again. Because without that word love, we'll never see past racism, we'll never see past hateism, we'll never see past our differences, because Creator gave us all the personality and all our own character, our own individual ways of life. And for me, it's finding spirituality, and I don't judge whatever religion people do. I promote you to have a believe in that. Creator said there's all kinds of ways to do it. It's up to you what you want to do. And I found mine. And I found mine with my family and community, and that's first, and I just gotta say that, and as far as the kids are concerned, make time. And for the elders, do not let them pass away and you regret not getting information for them, because they are our dictionaries and they are our websites, because if you get that information, they want to give it to you. No matter how hard they look at you, they want to teach you something, and I don't want to have that. And that's why when elders say, hey, come on over here, like I have some for you, I go sit and listen. You got to make that time for them, because if we want to know what they learned and what they went through, and so we don't have to, you got to talk to them. And I just wanted one last thing is that um, we have a team called Impact. It's another thing that we're a part of, and it's these kids and trying to teach them, to stand up for themselves. And it is about anti-marijuana, but it's a kid's voice. They see it grown in their yards, and they see it in their community, and they think that's the only way of life. And that's what I'm trying to pull those kids away back in, me and Mike Duncan, trying to pull those kids away from that, because that's not, we need to tell our kids school's important, culture's important, your family's important, not that truck and that quad and that big money, free money. It's not about that. It's about building your strengths and building your character and building your mindset. And Carol DeWitt is probably the best teacher of how to interact with children, like the way you talk to them. So if you're out there, people, like, read that book, read or just look up her website. You'll learn how to speak to kids and promote them and push them in the right direction. There's a lot of things I learned in my life, and I hold on to them. I hold on to them and I give them away, because they're not mine. Everything I learn, I give away, because that's how we share in this world, and we make more better people and better places. And all I got to say is that I appreciate you guys allowing me to be on here today. I could go on forever telling you what I do, but let's reach out to each other and just never forget that we're all in this together, and if we want a better world and a better planet, we got to take care of it, and we got to take care of each other. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Priest. That was a beautiful message. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks to Priest Martinez for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, thanks for listening to Hoporenkv Native American Podcast. If you enjoyed our show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Also visit our website, www.nativelearningcenter.com, to find information on upcoming webinar and virtual trainings. Also, all the links and anything and informational that Priest would like you to know about will be in the link description box below. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to Native Learning Center. And I hope everybody at least gets something away from today's podcast. And just know that you're loved. Thank you, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day.